Talk Sport and Business. I'm Neil Oja on Talk 100.3, a part of the Fun Asia Network. Now, while we were celebrating yesterday the big Indian win, the euphoria of that win hasn't really dropped down. We're still right up at the top of our minds. But the situation around us, the things that are happening around us in our region, does put in a little bit of concern, if that's the right word, in our minds. Everyone reacts differently to such challenges, and they are right to do so. No one is right or wrong. There's no need to be so brave about everything and like, oh, this is the thing, this is how it's going to be. Oh, don't worry. Are panic kyun kar rahe ho? Are chill rakho yaar. No, I personally feel that everyone has the right to feel the way they feel, and there's nothing right or wrong about it. And that's probably one of the reasons why the authorities in Abu Dhabi have activated a 24/7 mental health helpline, 800 Sakina. That's 800-725462, to ensure community members to have access to qualified health professionals for timely, trusted support whenever they need it. And joining us in conversation today on Talk 100.3 is Dr. Shaju George. He's someone who works with mental health. He's a psychiatrist and a part of the International Modern Hospital, Dubai. Dr. Shaju, welcome to TSB.
Good afternoon. Welcome.
So, first question is, obviously everyone takes up the challenges in their own way, in their own stride. But in your experience, how does a larger population feel when an unknown challenge comes upon us, something that we're experiencing right now?
This situation is almost like the COVID when it was hit into 2020, because it was COVID was unanticipated like this, like that. Basically, this war was also, especially in this region, was totally unanticipated. When anything comes unanticipated, it basically creates a whole lot of stress and anxiety in people who are affected, especially in people in this part of the world. And they will go through unnecessary anxiety and panic. And especially on top of that, when social media is flooding with all different kind of false or correct or official or unofficial messages, that actually adds to the situation.
Well, you've hit the nail on the head with by adding the social media context. But that is something that we'll definitely come to when we talk about our conversation at length. But first thing first, when someone is experiencing a situation which is not a very unique, which is not a very day-to-day scenario. We all drive on the roads. I'll give you a classic example for our listeners as well. When we're driving every day, there is a serious amount of risk involved in driving as well, right? I mean, there are accidents, there are things that could happen, unfortunate things that could happen on the road. But that is something that we have probably adapted to or learned to maneuver. But something like this, when it's completely new, completely different, how does one then start think positively about what is happening around us?
The most important part is basically listen to the official inputs and information regarding the war, number one. So that basically gives us some sort of secure, safe feeling. Number two, live in the moment. At this moment, yes, if even when there are a lot of things happening around, at this moment, let's say someone is driving on the road, and during the day, generally the attacks are quite less when compared to the night. So at this point of time, in the moment, I'm not at risk, or the chance for risk is quite less. Number three, whenever we are going through unanticipated moments, of course, no one can anticipate what exactly is going to come. So if I'm facing the situation in an anxiety-free situation, or in other words, keeping myself calm and collected with based on whatever be the reassurance given by the government and whatever be the precautions which I have taken, I can come to a conclusion like I'm almost safe in the current scenario. But still, there is a room for unsafe situations. That is something which can happen to anyone at any point, whether we are in a war situation or not. So this is how basically we should approach the crisis situation like this.
Interesting. You've definitely stated the most important, most basic things that one has to do. But I'm sure that there are some people who get impacted a little more than the others, who probably feel the anxiety levels going through the roof when we get those notifications. Is there something that they can do at that very moment or throughout the process to ensure that they can come out of it sooner?
Yeah, depending upon the personality, people, their coping skill will be different. Depending upon their previous experiences, their coping skill will be different. So there are some people who are getting affected, while the majority of the other group of people are not getting affected.
Mm-hmm.
So how exactly they have to tackle and deal with the situation? Any person who is going through anxiety-provoking situation, of course, an avoidable anxiety situation, stress-provoking situation, we have to avoid in the sense like, let's say I don't want to go out, I can work from home, I can do things from home. So rather than getting exposed to a difficult situation, let me stay at home, let me be with my family. So I have feeling like everyone is around me and my family is also around me and we are all safe. This is one thing. Number two, let's say I have to go out and I have to face the anxiety provoking situation. Then in that case, I can resort to anxiety reducing measures like practicing relaxation methods, and especially in the form of deep breathing exercise, and also at the same time staying connected to people around with whom he can talk to, in the sense like like-minded people who are basically not actually enhancing his anxiety, rather giving him reassuring nods and things like that. These are the things by which basically he can keep himself calm and collected.
Yeah, I mean, like you mentioned that not coming in contact with or over spending time with people who probably, spike your anxiety levels by saying completely different than what you are feeling. But you will, bump into all kind of people around. I mean, especially if you're going at a workplace, when you're at a workplace, there will be people with different mindsets. In fact, some might have a coping mechanism that probably could trigger someone by saying, "Arey, don't worry." I mean, to show the bravado from outside to, probably could be a coping mechanism.
Avoiding such people who are, I'll not use the word toxic, but if they're toxic, avoid people who are toxic, number one, and reduce the social media exposure where it is being bombarded, the social media and the media, the other TV channels and other things were being bombarded with this kind of information. They are doing it for their TRP, and so we will get exposed to these kind of things and we will get affected. So try to avoid exposure in this type of cases to the minimum, unless otherwise it is that indicated. So these things basically will help us to stay to somewhat immune to this kind of anxiety-provoking situations around.
Dr. Shaju, I'm sure that you, in your experience, would have understood and have the knowledge about kids as well, and I'm sure that kids would get impacted more than the adults. Is that a fact?
Probably adults are getting affected more than the kids, because kids they don't understand the seriousness of the problem to that extent as that of an adult understands. And number two, among children, of course, they talk to each other and they basically have a tendency to put things down, in the sense like that they seeing things in light vein rather than creating things out of proportion. But adults, since they know the actual situation, actual scenario, and since they can read in between the lines, they will have more anxiety when compared to the kids.
Now, is there any long-term impact of a situation like this? I mean, UAE came out of COVID the fastest and the strongest. So from a business point of view, we were back on track. But I'm sure that some people still are reeling under the anxiety of a COVID-like scenario. So again, an unprecedented situation right now. Are there any long-term effects of this?
Definitely, yes. Government is doing a wonderful job by providing the safety and security and giving us that comfort. But still, people, when they go through situation like this, a traumatic situation like this, they can go through post-traumatic stress disorder or PTSD. So I can, last couple of days, I have come across at least few clients who came to my clinic, and they told me, doctor, it reminded me with the flashbacks of the days of the COVID. So PTSD is something, post-traumatic stress disorder is something which can come as an aftermath of this kind of incidents and this kind of traumatic situation or the crisis situations or catastrophes. So that we need to anticipate. And
when you say that we have to anticipate, I'm sure that it has some kind of treatment that one has to go through. But are people okay to talk about it? Because many a times, while we are still trying to push the agenda and the ideology of mental health, ahead of everything else, are people okay and comfortable to talk about this, or it's still looked down upon when people say that, oh, I'm getting anxiety about a situation like this?
I think people are more open these days, but my observation compared to the COVID after the war has started this time, COVID days, yes, people were going through a lot of issues, anxiety, and we were keep getting lot of calls regarding the issues which they are going through. Fortunately or unfortunately, either unfortunately in the sense if they are not taking help, or fortunately in the sense if they are doing well, these days the calls are quite less when compared to the COVID days. Probably the government has ensured that it's a very safe environment here, or given the confidence to the people like, yeah, things are under control. Probably that is the reason why people are not going through as much of anxiety as before in the case of COVID, because COVID was we were completely having in the sense, no idea regarding how to tackle the situation.
True.
But still, if the answer to your question is yes, people are more open regarding seeking help. Compared to the past.
This is a good sign, isn't it? I mean, when people are open to look forward to their own, I mean, if they are looking to help themselves, I'm sure that there is help available. But
definitely they will make use of those hotlines and other things. Definitely.
But doctor, tell me something. If within the family or within a workplace, when we see, people who haven't been able to cope up or do feel anxious about some situations, what should be the first line of action as a colleague or as a family member that one should do in such a scenario?
So we always talk about befrienders. Befrienders is a group of people, or in the sense like whether it is at home or in the school or in the office or workplace, wherever it is. When we see that a person is going through something, rather than waiting for him to come to you, you go and ask him like, "Is it okay? Are you okay?" So, befriend is a person who knows that, who is empathetic, who is an empathetic listener, who knows that, who can understand that the other person is going through some difficult times, and who has some understanding regarding the mental health and where to take him and what sort of help has to be offered. So these type of things are definitely going to help the person who is going through, and especially in case if he is not willing to seek help. So we must ask them, we must reach out to them, and we must ask them and give them the necessary help in the form of either providing the relaxation methods, or taking them to psychologists, or if needed to psychiatrists, or giving them the assurance like even medications can be of help in some situations. So when any of your family member or colleague is going through this, and if you can reach out and if you can give them the reassurance and an empathetic ear and give them an idea regarding how to tackle the situation, definitely it is going to help them a lot.
Are there any ways where one could learn the basics of how there is first aid, that one can actually get certified and learn the basics of first aid? Are there some ways where one can actually learn things that could be done or should be done as the first responder in such a scenario?
There are in clinics in Dubai who are providing mental health first aid, just like the first aid in other situations and physical conditions. There are mental health first aid. In mental health first aid, basically they groom people who are interested in mental health affairs with preliminary understanding regarding all different type of behavioral disorders, preliminary understanding regarding what exactly, as a layperson who is trained with mental health first aid, how exactly they can tackle the situation at their level, and what are those situations which require the psychological intervention, what are those situations which require psychiatric intervention. So they are being groomed in that way. So these people can work as befrienders in their office or at home. The courses are available.
This is amazing. This information is so vital, and especially at such a time where one thinks that they probably have that little special ability, that little special skill, and who has that empathy nerve intact, then I think it definitely will be helpful for the society at large, isn't it?
100%. The two qualities which a befriender or a mental health first aid person should have is, one is empathy, second is common sense. So if these two things are there, definitely.
One could have empathy, but to have common sense, that's a challenge, sir. It's not very often that one has common sense, right?
Yes, absolutely. Common sense is not that common.
But I'm so glad that you took out time from your very busy schedule to speak to us about this very integral topic of conversation, mental health. Because I don't know, I try and ensure that, for as often as I can, to try and speak about mental health, because many a times, and coming from the society that we come from, the Asian subcontinent, the Indian subcontinent, we generally are not, should I say, trained, or should we say socially acclimatized to the idea of speaking about mental health.
I think the trend is changing these days. People are coming. Of course, unlike when I started my practice 25 years ago, things were different, and now definitely things are much better. Especially I have confidence and trust and faith in the youngsters.
Right.
The school-going children and the college-going children, they don't have any hesitancy to talk about their mental health issues.
That is
true. They don't have any hesitancy to seek help also. And this is one area probably where the social media has played a very major positive role.
This is lovely. I mean, like one would say that everything has its pros and cons. Social media too, while in such a scenario has been pushing, or rather some people are pushing their agendas to get some followers and likes and views. There is a good side to social media as well.
Absolutely.
Fantastic, sir. Thank you so much for your time today, and would love to have this conversation in some time as well, to probably dig deeper into the aspects of anxiety in such unprecedented times.
It's my pleasure. Most welcome. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Shaju George, joining us. He is from the Psychiatry Department at the International Modern Hospital in Dubai. But what an insight, while we do think that there are, people who have different responses to the situation that is happening around us, the condition that we are in, the challenges that we face on a daily basis. Not every person is like you. If you think that, अरे यार कोई दिक्कत नहीं है, बिंदास मैं तो निकल लूंगा, the other person may not be. He probably might be sitting, or he or she might be sitting right next to you and would not be feeling the same. So don't try and impose your ideologies, your thoughts, your feelings or your emotions on them of bravado and telling them, अरे कोई टेंशन मत ले यार, कुछ नहीं है. Try and see if you can hear them out. Try and see if you can empathize with them. Or just, if nothing else, understand them by listening to them. Try and have some common sense. Just like Dr. Shaju mentioned that you need to have empathy, you need to have common sense. If you apply these two things, I'm sure that you'll make life simpler for your teammates, your colleagues, your family members. Sometimes within the family, my mom keeps, she does get a little paranoid. She calls me at least दिन में 7-8 बार कॉल करती है, and rightly so. दूर बैठे हैं, वहाँ पर जो मीडिया का एक्सपोजर है उसके अनुसार she wants to speak to me and wants to check on what's happening. She's like, why are you traveling? Why do you want to do this? Why do you want to go there? Why do you want to do this? Just stay at home. And then you try and obviously understand, where is she coming from? What amount of content she's been consuming? What is the kind of content she's consuming? And then you want to talk to her, try and make her understand that it's not half as bad as you seeing on the Indian news channels. So please, एक तो वो देखना बंद करो, verified news sources, और ये आपके लिए भी बिल्कुल तय होता है कि verified news sources को ही follow करें, and यहाँ वहाँ की rumors में believe ना करें, because this is where, or these are the things that actually add to your anxiety levels, और फिर बाद में आप और परेशान होंगे, आपकी फैमिली परेशान होगी, तो ना करें. ठीक है ना? Meanwhile, how are you feeling is what I want to know. So do send in your messages on 0586861003, 0586861003. That's my number. WhatsApp number है, तो इस पर आप WhatsApp कर सकते हैं, मुझे बता सकते हैं कि how are you feeling today. Okay, ताकि मैं भी जो है आपके साथ में आपकी कहानी समझ सकूं. आप क्या सोच रहे हैं, आप कैसा फील कर रहे हैं, ये जान सकूं. क्योंकि जैसे मैंने कहा ना कि not two people are the same. कोई दो लोग जो है बिल्कुल एक तरह नहीं सोच पाते हैं, ना एक तरह इस सिचुएशन को संभाल पाते हैं. ठीक है ना? और इनमें से कोई भी गलत नहीं है. कोई बिल्कुल जो ब्रेव होके चल रहा है वो भी गलत नहीं है, और जो बिल्कुल थोड़ा सा ऐसा सहमा हुआ सा है, थोड़ा डरा सा हुआ है, वो भी गलत नहीं है. 0586861003 is my number. Quickly send in a message and tell me how are you feeling. And genuinely, थोड़ा लंबा भी हो जाए चलेगा. व्हाट्सएप है तो फ्री में ही मैसेज कर रहे हो, ठीक है ना? थोड़ा लंबा भी हो जाए तो कोई दिक्कत नहीं है. आज ही इनफैक्ट लंबे से बात करें, आज ही मेरे दोस्त हैं, मेरे एडवाइज़र हैं, मेरे फ्रेंड फिलोसफर एंड गाइड हैं, उनसे मैं बात कर रहा था. हमने 1 घंटा फ़ोन पे बात की है. 1 घंटा, ठीक है ना? आजकल हमारी फ़ोन पे बात लोगों से कितनी होती, 2 मिनट, 5 मिनट, 7 मिनट बहुत हो गया. 1 घंटा मैंने उनसे बात की और काफ़ी सारी बात की, करंट सिचुएशन की, फाइनेंशियल्स, वो दुनियादारी की बात करी है, करियर्स की बात करी है, ग्रोथ की बात करी है. एंड इवेंचुअली आज मैं शाम को उनसे मिलने वाला हूँ आफ्टर वेरी लॉन्ग टाइम. बट यही बात होती है, बात करने से बात बनती है. मैसेज कीजिए 0586861003 एंड टेल मी हाउ आर यू फीलिंग. कैसे हो आप, दिल से बताना, बस ऐसे ही हाँ ठीक हो मत लिख देना. 0586861003 मेरा व्हाट्सएप नंबर. मैं हूं नील, दिस इज TSB ऑन टॉक 100.3, अ पार्ट ऑफ द फन एशिया नेटवर्क. ऑल्सो यू कैन जॉइन अस ऑन आवर इंस्टाग्राम हैंडल. हमारा इंस्टाग्राम हैंडल आपको पता ही है, टॉक के पेज पे जाना है आपको, तो सबसे आसान काम तो यही है, सर्च में जाइए, वहाँ पे लिखिए टॉक, TALK, इतना लिखोगे आपको सामने आ जाएगा, टॉक 100.3 UAE. ठीक है, फॉलो ज़रूर कीजिएगा. नील के साथ रहिए ऑन TSB.
TSB, talking sports, business and more. Talk 100.3.